And if this is any later getting up and posted than normal, I take full responsibility. Not Emmerich, my video guy, because I've been doing this for 4 years on Friday nights, and I forgot that I gotta be doing it on Thursday nights now. So I set my phone to ring me every Thursday at 4:20 in the afternoon, which will be my reminder that I have to make a video. So that out of the way. Does the clerics turn undead eventually get strong enough to have other effects, or does it only make undead run away? I think in my world it peaks out where it does, um, and that's just almost everything runs away when you say so. The original incentive or archetype for the clerics and the undead was the silver crucifix, around the priest's neck, or whatever. There's a certain element of the medieval fear and abhorrence of the. Oh, I just noticed this is all weird. Oh, I didn't paint the walks red. Wait on. We had so many power outages last week. I forgot to reset that light. That looks a little better. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, sorry. It was always kind of like good and neutral, and let's just go good evil, shall we? Undead or evil. Good abhors evil. You get in neutral in the middle in that, and then you get into the multiple axes of alignment and whatever. But basically, good abhors evil, a good deity. And you got to remember that when most of this stuff was originally written about turning away undead, Protestantism and Roman Catholicism were the two primary influences, and those deities abhorred unnatural, abnormalities like undead would be. So they had the power to turn them away. And as they get increasingly powerful, and in my world, learn more powerful prayers, they have a greater effect. But I think that's enough, given that the whole purpose was to balance this life and undeath and life and undeath. I think that's enough. I don't think it needs to go any. I don't think spell needs to go any further. After all, they're clerics, and unless you're playing in a hinky neutral campaign, or an outright evil campaign, clerics are supposed to be a force of leavening and good, and succor and affirmation. I always had my character flee from whites. Always thought the white drawing in the monster manual was terrifying. And then I had a LMAO after that. Well, I tend to believe that smart players flee from anything that can drain you. Yes, that's should be the first rule, the first maxim of preservation in a sword and sorcery RPG is stay the hell away from anything that can drain you. And whether it's draining a whole level, sucking up your intelligence points, or whatever. Yeah, especially if any of those have been hard earned and gained beyond your original equipment, it's twice as hard. Okay, I have a question about experience points. When dealing with classes, in my opinion, I feel each class should be different. but I would like your take on how each class should level and what was the original intention for EXP experience. Well, if I go to, have it right here, having looked this up a little while ago, if I go to page 16 of the very first, yes, the very first book of the old original set, it says that fighting men, magic users, clerics all start out at 0. To achieve the next level of fighting man, we call them fighters now, has to have 2,000 points. The seer, a second level cleric, or a magic user rather, has to have 2,500. And the adept, the clerical, has to have 15. So it seems to me they're already different. It seems to me that Gary gave a lot of thought to the progressions and levels, and at the current level of play, the current level of potential yield in terms of experience points, it was balanced. It was balanced, and a fighter had to get 2,000. Magic user needed more, because when magic users go up levels, they have access to more spells, so they need more grounding. This was the logic, and I agree with it for the most part. Clerics were somewhat less, but clerics also, depending upon how experience points are awarded in a given campaign, it's harder for clerics to gain experience under the old rigid rules. Now, I have always handed out experience throughout the party for a party goal mutually achieved. I have often awarded extra experience to a cleric who selflessly heals somebody or pulls them out of danger, or manages to, oh yeah, what if I try this and it works? So I don't have they should, you're right, as it's the sentence, as the comment is written, they are different, and I don't have any problem justifying that, because especially in the case of the wizards, the magic users, man, by the time they get 4th and 5th level, there are at least they're armored cars looking for trouble. I don't know if they're tanks yet, but they're armored cars looking for trouble. And when they get to 5th and can throw that fireball, Katie bar the door. So in terms of what they can do as they acquire experience, it becomes not just marginally, but significantly more potentially damaging, potentially destructive than what they could before. So I really don't have a problem with it. Clerics have a steadier, smoother path for the most part, and if they're good, loyal servants of their deity and out, doing their best friar chuck with the band of merry men and pulling their share of the load, okay, so they actually get to go up a little, given that all the fighter, the magic user, and the cleric were all in the same adventures equally, they'll get a little more benefit from it because they get there quicker. I don't have a problem with that. Because of their bans on edged weapons, which I do enforce, because of their bans on edged weapons, they need some help and or some balance, not help, compensation, better word. Okay, talking about scales last time. Agree on a 5-mile hexes for a hex crawl. For larger whole continent maps, I like 30-mile hexes and assume a party can walk 1 hex a day under good conditions, etc. Okay. Well, God, yes, you'd have to do something on a continent thing, or else you'd have maps strung all the way around around your walls and look like one of those crazy people that they arrest on the cop shows or Sherlock Holmes. Absolutely, you can go with any scale you like that you're comfortable with at drawing. There's an interesting suggestion here. For the fellow who asked about hex map scales, if you're interested in lifting a travel system with concrete variables, check out the one ring. 1 hex is 10 miles. Every hex has color-coded difficulty: very easy, easy, moderate, hard, severe, and daunting. A descriptor to a system prompting GM communication. A modifier times half times 1, 2, up, whatever. Different modes. Okay. I always advocate, if you find something you like in another game system and you want to bring it into your world, your toolbox, absolutely go for it. All right. Shiazbot Cascoid. Would you allow chance in the case of repurposing a magic spell out of desperation? For example, a shield spell used by a falling wizard to lessen fall damage if they make a certain DC roll. Now, I gotta admit my ignorance here. I'm not sure what a DC roll is. I would probably use Dex and Constitution, but no. Spells are spells. Spells are specific utterances of sound and semantics and all that. Some spells can certainly be reversed by doing everything backwards, but unless it's a direct reversal, no. I don't remember. Shield spell. I don't remember exactly what it did either. Now, if all right, let's take Featherfall and reverse it. And so, if you cast Featherfall as it's written and intended, you fall slower and perhaps can control it completely and absolutely avoid injury. Now, what if you were trying to get away from something like a Tyrannosaurus Rex-sized monster and you wanted to take Featherfall and do it exactly backwards? I might let you try. I wouldn't necessarily have a high expectation of it working, but you could perhaps make big bounds as though you were in gravity. In that type of intuitive, innovative, imaginative, direct reversal of a spell, I'll certainly give a chance. But when it's not a direct opposite of the effect, no. And, that's just the way the ball bounces some days. Some days it doesn't pay to get up out of bed. Okay, what else here? Okay, that's the best one I could come up with there, commenter. What stats would you assign for, well, I'm not sure what DC is. Okay. Taking some suggestions from players is fine and doesn't require any formalized system of plot points. Yes. But the next two commenters addressed that. And actually, the next two commenters basically said everything I would have said, again, in defense of that individual with the cash in a token for a point. First respondent might make it easier for children, though, as in that case. Kids might feel they aren't allowed to suggest things to an adult, and that concept can help them do so. Yes, absolutely. Please remember, as I had to do every day I taught, that not every child is raised as I was, not every child is raised as you were. Not every child had same anything. So, in that case, anything you can do to, and especially if they're younger kids, to get them to feel that they've bought in and have a stake, wonderful idea. Next one. I agree. You might be reading a bit much into the original comment. I don't think the intention was to formalize player suggestions, but rather to encourage them in a player group that may have needed a little help to get over social anxieties or behavioral issues. Good point. Again, we don't know the particulars, so we can only say sounds like a good idea that would work in a number of situations. All right, now this next one. I think 5th edition D&D is the safe space of 2nd edition D&D world. Next commenter, how do you mean? One example for 5e is Thaco the Clown. Another is the combat wheelchair. Orcs being racist. Drow being racist. You can't play another race other than your own because it's racist. I could go on and on. However, I doubt you or I will have the time or energy to debate the intricacies of what is going on behind the scenes at WotC internal sheet show. Again, this is just my humble interpretation and opinion of what's going on. Okay. It's an interesting point, and in the right circumstances, that could be a wonderful target for a room full of discussion. Number one, let's address the concept of a safe space. Grade school? Absolutely. Middle school? Absolutely. High school? Come on now. Got to start learning that there's things out there in the world you're not going to like or that might bother you, but they're out there and you have to deal with it. I blew my lid when I first saw a college with a safe space. College is not just about reading books and taking tests. It's about being exposed to new ideas and exchanging ideas and learning how other people in the world live and other people in the U.S. live and other people in your state live. Not about having somewhere to run when your feelings were hurt. That's for small children. Yeah. You see, even 2nd edition got nerfed down a little bit. Dan the Bard does a great song about Bard Camp, where a 2nd edition Bard picked on a 1st edition Bard and got his ass kicked because 1st edition Bard had all those fighting proficiencies and skills before he could even go to Bard school. It's an interesting point, and I think you might have a very good point at that. I'm not going to get all the people who are behind all this looking at me because I shared my opinion which has been pretty much, if you can read between the lines at all. I think this question, everything's racist. Yes, well, I think that's gone too far now. Let's let sanity rule again. We did not create any line of anything to cast racist stereotypes upon some type of monster. That's just stupid. When I created the race of Fae that I created for my Arredondo adventures with Eldritch, I'm sure I had no ulterior motives that, oh yeah, they're Guatemalans or Hondurans or no. So no, yeah, you might be right. 50 is where you go if your feelings get hurt real easy. And then of course you have all the ridiculous proliferation of PCs, so you can be just whatever you want. Which, as a precept of its own, is not bad. But there's too many of them. All right, I think that's about it. Again, if this got out and you didn't get to listen to my erudite dithering while eating your grape nuts, if they even make those anymore, sorry about that. I'll try to do better next week. Do da da goovy.
Curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine. He's a curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. ESR and fantasy, collection of micro armory, Titan with tramp under a tree, high as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.